Welcome to For the Record, a Wayne County Chamber of Commerce podcast, where real conversations meet real impact. We dive into the stories, insights, and experiences that shape our world, bringing you expert voices, thought-provoking discussions, and a fresh perspective on the topics that matter most. For the Record is proudly sponsored by Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company, TA Loving Company, Goldsboro Builders Supply, PDM Professional Data Management, UNC Physicians Network,
Alta Foods,
and Butterball. We're grateful for their support in making these conversations possible. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
Courtney, Keesee. What's up, friend?
Hey, Scott. It's fun to be here. Thanks for having me.
You look like $1 million.
Oh, you're too kind.
You know, I love the blue.
You're too kind. Thanks.
Yeah.
They told me solid, so here we are.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Try to comply.
I think that was such a good choice.
Thanks.
So tell the folks who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Courtney Keesee. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor here in Wayne County, actually born and raised in Goldsboro. In the year 2020, I started my own Christian counseling and consulting business. I'm married to Ken Keesee. So he's with Goldsboro Physical Therapy and Wellness.
That's right.
And together we have 2 children. Our daughter is 9 and our son is 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what did you say it was? A licensed what?
It's a mouthful, and they changed it a few years ago. It used to be LPC, but now it's LCMHC, so Licensed Clinical Mental Health Counselor.
Wow.
It's a mouthful.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
It probably means what it sounds like it means, but tell us what that means.
Pretty straightforward. So, yeah, I mean, you're licensed by the state of North Carolina, and you're able to practice in an outpatient setting and see people with diagnosis, depression, anxiety, PTSD, children, adolescents, and adults.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, you're my licensed mental health professional counselor. Is that right?
That's right.
Man, you're a lucky duck, huh? Gosh,
absolutely.
I'm sure I stretch your limits.
No, I love what I do. It's a joy.
Oh yeah, see?
It's a joy.
That's well said, man.
I meet
Really
wonderful people along the way.
That's
Top-notch folks.
Yeah, well, that's good. So, I mean, how you said you grew up in Goldsboro? Like, where'd you go to school?
So I went to Wayne Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, 6th through 12th grade. So graduated.
Very cool.
Yeah, here.
Very cool.
after
And
that.
where'd you go to college?
So I went to Meredith College.
Okay.
So I think, I always knew that I wanted to be in the helping profession. I just didn't know exactly what that would look like growing up. People would always tell me that I had an encouraging personality or that I was a good listener. So that was always in the back of my head. I knew real quick that I couldn't be a nurse. So fun fact about me, blood is not my thing.
Yeah.
Not my thing.
You said nurse and I got...
Yeah, love nurses, but
Yes,
I knew I couldn't. But yeah, so in my pursuit to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, like I said, I went to Meredith College. I studied communication and psychology. My senior year, I was writing my senior thesis on the idea of forgiveness. So specifically forgiveness as it relates to infidelity in the marital relationship. Now, I have no idea why I chose that topic.
Right.
I think now looking back, I can see how the pieces of the puzzle were coming together and how God was orchestrating my steps. But I had the opportunity as a part of the research to sit down with individuals and sit down with couples, some who had chosen to stay together after infidelity and some who hadn't. But really hearing those stories of redemption and reconciliation really was powerful. It was really powerful. People just willing to be vulnerable. And I'm just a senior in high school trying to do a thesis, And I know Scripture tells us we have to forgive, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It just in my head means relinquishing that bitterness that you feel towards someone for the wrongdoing they did to you, right? So forgiveness is a process, and I learned that became a journey for each individual. But to see the beauty from the brokenness and the stories of reconciliation, I think was probably like a timestamp, like, hey, maybe the counseling profession is something that I am interested in. So when I graduated Meredith, what do you do next, right? So I always was familiar with Focus on the Family Institute, which is out in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So Dr. James Dobson is a Christian psychologist. And so I think he started that ministry in 1977. So fast forward for me, this is the year 2006. And he had a program called Focus Institute, where basically as a student, you could go and study marriage, parenting, and family all under the umbrella of a biblical perspective. And I thought, well, I also love to snow ski, so let's go.
Let's go.
I thought, let's do it. So luckily I was accepted. I applied, I was accepted, packed everything I owned, didn't know a soul. Show up day one. I'm like, hey, my name's Courtney. And they're like, I'm here for Focus Institute. And they say, here's 3 roommates and here's the key to your apartment. Have the best time.
Nice.
So I met a lot of incredible people. I will say, I guess back to kind of what we're referring to here, one of the friendships that I made as it was unfolding, we became pretty close. And she shared she struggled with an eating disorder, specifically bulimia. And I'll never forget the time I took her to the hospital. And side note, I was the one that passed out in the emergency room, not her.
I understand that.
It's terrible. Again,
that.
Can't be a nurse. But being able to walk with her through that journey and help her. And again, as all this time is passing, I can see how God was orchestrating my steps by giving me experiences. Let's see. So back up a little bit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, so bulimia, eating disorder, you're helping this girl. Now, she's just like a peer at that time. Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
Straight up friends.
All right.
Yeah.
Understood.
We're friends. Yeah.
Right.
So started classes at Focus Institute. You go through the whole orientation phase. So there's 88 students from all across the country.
Right.
And we were packed in this room. And I'll never forget the first day. Dr. Del Tackett. Do you know who that is? Have you heard of him? So Dr. Del Tackett walked in. Yeah. So he walked in the room and introduced himself and said, "You are about to embark on the most important journey of your life." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well,
let me get ready.
Let's go." So
I don't know if I wore the right clothes.
Yeah. Right.
What
Okay,
happened?
here we are.
Nobody said that ahead of time.
Oh, you're funny. So I was really excited for what he had to say. So essentially, as the semester unfolded, he was teaching us the Truth Project. So that was a part of his ministry that at that time he was finalizing the Truth Project. So we got to be the first class to walk through that 13-week study with him. So basically asking questions, do you believe what you really believe to be really real? I was like, okay, wait, what?
Right.
Do you believe what you really believe to be really real?
Which is, by the way, side note, that's a relevant question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you think about how many people just kind of BS their way through their own cycle of belief.
That's right.
Like life, philosophy, whatever it might be.
That's right.
I listen to people sometimes. I'm like, man, you don't even believe what you're saying yourself. So, I guess you would know better than most that we lie to ourselves all the time. Anyway.
100%. So
interesting. Sorry.
No, to your point.
Side note, interesting question.
No, you're exactly right. So to your point, and again, as the semester unfolded, what is truth? So who is God? Who is man? What are truths? What are lies?
And a real serious theology there.
A lot.
Like, yeah.
And what takes us captive? The battlefield of the mind is real. So what takes us captive? And then how does that influence who we are? How we behave, how we interact with others. And, I see it every week in my office. We are broken and there's a lot of suffering. And we have bought into the lies of the world. And so I really think what the Truth Project, what Dr. Del Tackett did for me as I was like a sponge soaking up everything he said, was it helped me build a solid foundation for, again, what was to come. So all these pieces of the puzzle are coming together. I also had the opportunity to be a part of the research for his book, and his book being Dr. James Dobson himself, Bringing Up Girls. So previously he'd written Bringing Up Boys. So now we're at Bringing Up Girls, and kind of like the microphone situation. So we sat around the round table, mic'd up. So a little intimidating at first, I suppose, but really we just spent the day with him, asking him, or he was asking us questions developmentally, like what was it like to grow up as a girl? Tell me about your relationship with your dad, your relationship with your mom. Socially, what was that like? What were some of the things you struggled with emotionally? And just listening to my new friends sit around the table with him, it really, I get fired up. Like I love that kind of stuff. Sure. I loved it. So I took a marriage class, and just real quick, a highlight from the marriage class: marriage was to make you holy, not just happy. And really that perspective shift, mind blowing stuff. Again, like a sponge. Took a parenting class, and learned a lot about the dynamic with parenting. Discipline's important, being consistent. But at the end of the day, I mean, you and I both know kids spell love, Time. And so really giving them our undivided attention and eye contact. I mean, you fast forward to 2025 and how many distractions do we have?
I can't hardly make eye contact with anybody. I get scared. You don't get scared?
I mean,
look somebody in the eyes for too long,
yeah.
I gotta look away.
I've gotten really comfortable with eye contact and silence.
Really?
Fun fact. Well, yeah. I mean,
golly.
Yeah.
Huh. I think about that story in Job where he lost everything and he was like losing it. His friends come and sit with him they sit Shiva is what they said.
Yeah.
It's like an old Hebrew method of, it's like 7 days of silence.
Yeah.
And that's all they did was sit silent for 7 days to comfort him. I'm like, huh.
There's power in silence. I've learned that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. So
no, you're fine.
Mental health journey. Here you are. You're going through these classes. You're learning about yourself, what you believe, what you think, what other people believe and think. You're having these experiences.
That's right. Yeah. So as, my time at the Focus Institute out in Colorado came to a close, it was just clear. And it was an easy decision for me to pursue a master's degree in professional counseling. So I went to Liberty University, graduated in 2009. Applied for, so after graduation, I needed licensure hours for the state of North Carolina. And so I applied for internship positions in Wayne County, Charlotte, anywhere in between. I mean, I was like not opposed to coming back to Wayne County. Right. But you know what? The coolest opportunity landed right back in this wonderful town.
Oh, yeah.
So I did. I moved right back, ended up working in an intensive in-home program, which essentially that is where the child or adolescent is the primary client. And then there's a team of professionals that go into the home. So like family systems. So now I'm in outpatient therapy, which is the lowest level of care. Intensive in-home would be a higher level of care. So learned a ton. Also helped a colleague run a day treatment program. So kids who were in trouble at school, we would work with them after school hours and had the privilege to lead group therapy for kids. So just by default did a lot of, kids and parenting. But do you want to hear my favorite first outpatient experience?
Heck yeah, I do.
Okay.
Why would I not want to? I would absolutely.
Buckle up. This is actually a good one.
Yeah.
Or I hope it's a good one. We'll see. I'll let you be the judge of that.
It will be.
So, all right, like I said, I was starting out, I was working with a lot of kids and parents. I'm like stoked for kids, love parents, right? So that was fun. But I also like marriage. And so I finally was provisionally licensed, which means you're able to be a big girl and see clients in the office by yourself.
Wow.
So I still had a supervisor. I was still involved in group supervision, but they put, sorry, this is good. They put a marital case on my schedule. So I woke up that morning and I'm like, yes, love parents, love kids, but also like stoked for marriage. So I go down to the waiting room, maybe a little bit too excited. I'm like, hey, my name's Courtney. Like, you guys come on back up with me. So we go to the office, shut the door, do my whole spiel. And then I say, well, what brings you in today? How may I help you? Not kidding. the woman looked at me and she was like, first of all, you're a child.
Whoa.
I was like instantly sweaty.
Yeah, of
like,
course.
okay, what have I gotten myself into? And then second, she says, you also don't have a wedding ring on.
Yeah.
So you're not married.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you think you can help me type thing.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. Nice
Technically,
to meet you.
yeah,
You know,
like,
it's real
hey.
nice to meet you.
Thank goodness she didn't know this was my first outpatient,
Right,
you know,
right.
like literally first.
Yeah, she would have added that to the list.
I'm
you know?
seasoned. Yeah. So, I could have gone two ways with that, right? So I could have let it totally bust my bubble, which again, I was like sweaty and nervous, but I'm a little too determined for that, too persistent. So thankfully, we powered through that session, and fun fact, they ended up coming back again. So somehow we made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that to say, it's been 16 years now since that session, and 4.5, pushing 5 years of me being on my own with Christian counseling and consulting.
So that is your business.
That's my business.
So let's talk about
Just
that
me.
for a second, because you're not only really a mental health professional, licensed mental health, whatever, professional counselor. Is that right?
Yeah, just
something
like
that?
therapist. It's fine.
You're
It's a
a
mouthful.
therapist.
Yeah.
But it's a business.
Right.
You had to, put a shingle up, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like?
Yeah. Well,
Going out on your own, and
I had no intent. I had always had aspirations of wanting to start out on my own, but I had no intentions of doing so while my kids at that time were 2 and like a fresh 2, and my daughter was 4.5. So I thought,
you were in the thick of it.
Yeah, like what's happening? But obviously that was the year of COVID. So everything had shut down. Where I was working, there was some transition in leadership. And honestly, the stars just kind of aligned. Yeah. And I thought, no better time than the present. So I took a leap of faith, and I have never looked back. I love what I do. Yeah. Like, I'm really passionate about it. So
that's awesome.
It's been nice. Yeah.
And you're good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're good at it.
Thank you. That's kind of you to say.
Well, yeah, it's also just true. You wouldn't be sitting here if you weren't good at what you do, So we're fortunate to have you sitting here. So there's so many questions that I want to ask you, but we only have so much time. There is one thing that I definitely want to make sure that I ask you is, it's really around, for all these years and all the progress and all the things, and maybe it's in Wayne County, but I don't think it's just in Wayne County. But there's a stigma around the fact that you even need a therapist, or that you have mental health problems or whatever it is. Like, used to, if you were a presidential candidate and somebody just said you were struggling with mental health, you'd be out as a candidate. There's something that undercuts trust in people, or the perception of a pedestal that people might be on, or I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But have you noticed that? Like, first, I guess, I'm sure you're aware of it, and over your 16 years, you've seen it occur, but like, talk about that. Like, why does that exist? Why is that such a stigma, even to this day?
Yeah. So I like the question. I think a stigma, at least in my head, is simply a lack of understanding, like a fear of the unknown, and there are many people that maybe don't know what a therapist does, or don't understand how the process unfolds.
What does a therapist do? Explain that in your words.
Great question. It has a lot to do with the therapeutic relationship, the therapeutic alliance. So I know all therapists have different approaches, different personalities, but I am very passionate that I do not make decisions for people. If you come in my office and you say, well, should I stay married? Should I not? Should I have this career change, or should I not? And there's a plethora of other, big life altering decisions. Like, I'm not going to make that decision for you. It is my joy to walk with you through those situations, but in no way do I want to create a dependence on me. So there is an art perhaps to what I do, and like maybe even asking the right questions, but again, a lot about the relationship and creating that atmosphere to where you as the client would feel comfortable coming in my office and sharing, and then kind of walking through that journey together. But yeah, I mean, a stigma is a lack of awareness, and maybe you've had a bad experience in the past with a relationship, with a therapist, or maybe your friend has and you've heard of that. And I'm sensitive to that. It's hard to be vulnerable to a quote stranger.
Yeah. Well, also, I just think that like people would not want to acknowledge to their coworkers or their friends that they get therapy, especially if you're a man.
There's absolutely some of that, and more so,
I mean,
generally speaking, with men.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why that is, but
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's these gender roles or identity and things like that. But it's this complicated little issue of I can't, people don't get what they need. It's like you don't get the medicine you need, which is this therapeutic, unveiling or sort of whatever intervention. Support, assistance, whatever it might be, whatever way you want to frame it. But it's like, I'm not going to take the medicine that I need because I'm scared of what other people are going to think about me.
That's a big component of it.
100%.
It's huge. Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of men I know need a lot of therapy,
Right.
There's a lot of guys walking around who didn't have dads.
That's right.
I mean, especially these days. I mean, I was in college ministry for a while, and man, if there was one thing I saw over and over, it was that. I mean, it was these young men who were not ready to be men because they had these experiences for years, and they didn't. I mean, I'm glad I was able to be in their lives, but they really needed a you in their life. I mean, so anyway, I just know that like there's this perception that like you can't, like there's a chink in your armor if you do this, you're weak in some way. And
weak is a word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weak is a word. And it's not uncommon for me to get a referral that comes across my desk. And then, I reach out and make contact with that person, and they're, kind of gets back to the stigma thing. They're like, well, you're the third person, that I've come across. I know I need therapy. But I don't believe that. How are you going to be any different? And so I guess for people who are even listening to this, I mean, we're having a conversation, hopefully to answer some questions, but I would encourage people to reach out and ask a lot of questions. I always like to do an initial phone consultation, complimentary, like 10, 15 minutes to say, first, can I even help you? Am I practicing within my scope of licensure? But also you're kind of interviewing me, on the other side of the phone to make sure that I'm a good fit for you. Right. So I would welcome like any questions. And I hope, it's kind of just like when you go see anyone in another profession, you want to make sure that what you got going on is good.
Yeah. And I think on that note, I mean, in May, I started a relationship with you myself, and that was new ground for me for sure. And when you're kind of public, you just gotta be careful. People use that stuff against you because some people are just ugly people, right?
I agree.
I mean, that's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
I can say it.
It can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can happen.
But at the end of the day, I was in a ditch, mentally, emotionally. Some would argue I'm still in that ditch, but it's hard to acknowledge that in your own mind and in your own heart that like, hey, I am struggling. And, and I would argue I'm not an easy person to probably talk to in that way. It may seem so at times, but it's not probably. And so anyway, I would say that it's been very, extremely, immensely beneficial for me. And, I don't know, I think about if it's sort of like if you've got a coach that's come into your life, I think about especially young kids. And I know you deal with a lot of kids, a lot of adolescents, which I think is
a lot of teen girls.
I think that's amazing.
As well as adults, yes.
So needed. But you think like, people go, you're going one direction, and it's like if a kid doesn't get intervention, they're gonna go full on over a cliff in their life, whatever that means. And it happens so many times, like if that adult doesn't step into their life or that right person doesn't step into their life. And maybe that's true for just humans in general, but I'm saying all that to acknowledge that it was true for me, that if that had not occurred, I'm not sure where my brain goes or where my life goes. I just know that it was not good. And the intervention, which sounds like such a strong and dramatic word, was not this big dramatic, blaring sirens. It was gentle, kind, that culture that you talked about that sort of allowed and permitted, me to be myself.
Comfort and growth.
In a full way.
Yeah.
Which is not possible for someone like me any other place.
Wow.
I mean, that's just the truth. I mean, you can't, what room do you go into?
That's pretty powerful.
Where you can be honest, fully honest.
100%. With no consequences, no judgment.
It is what it is.
Right.
And then someone helps you tease that out in your own, because it's not, for us as humans, I think, and you can chime in because you're the pro, but it's like, it's not just what you're going through, because everybody's going through something, right? But it's what you think about that you're going through. In other words, how you are interpreting, what is happening to you in real time. And sometimes it's not the story that's happening that you see. It's the story you tell yourself.
Insightful.
Right?
Right.
And I mean, I think that's part of what the gift, you're like a magician or something. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say. It's like you got special superpowers, but it's like, wait.
That's funny.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe the world's not playing out that way. Maybe, perhaps, it could be playing out in a different way, So I'm just saying something as simple as that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm all about perspective is key,
Yeah.
And so if I had a superpower, which obviously I don't, but if I had a superpower, it would be my objectivity, and being able to ask the right questions to empower a person to draw their own conclusions.
But that is an art. And so it's not one of these things where, that's why I think it's so important to hear what you have to say, because it's not just straightforward. It's not, anybody can't just walk in a room and ask those questions, the same exact questions on the same day, in the same room. It's not the same. Some people are gifted and wired, called, whatever you want to call it, but all those things are not equal. And so anyway, I just think that that's an important distinction.
Well, we're not meant to do life alone, and so to have someone who can, again, be objective and walk with you through this journey. I mean, I would venture to say there's zero judgment and no consequences, right? And so being able to create that environment for someone to foster growth and then watch God do all the work is 100% my favorite part of what I get to do.
Well, that's exciting. That's kind of cool. That's kind of a gift that you get to be. So I want to talk about that for a second, because like you are in on people's like, stuff.
There's a lot in my head.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a lot of weight.
That's
I
right.
don't care who you are. I don't care how gifted you are.
That's right.
It's like the empathy required to do that. And how do you manage that? Like personally, how do you listen to people's problems all day long and then still care, but not carry it? Or what? How does that? Just take me through that in your own life.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to. 16 years. I will say I've struggled with burnout, like pretty solid burnout one time. Early on, and thankfully early on you're in supervision and group supervision, but I remember going home crying. I said I worked with a lot of kids, right? Mm-hmm. So I think at the time I'd actually, the way that all that lined up, I'd met Ken. And so I remember coming home and telling my husband, or my boyfriend at the time, I'm going to open an orphanage. I just got to figure it out. Like whatever this takes, all these kids, Scott, I can close my eyes and 16 years ago, picture these precious little faces, unfortunately, some as young as 3 years old. I can picture these faces and I can almost audibly hear some of these conversations. Unfortunately, some led to legal issues. So conversations with lawyers, I was involved in a deposition. I mean, that stuff you just don't forget. I'll never erase some of those moments out of my life. And still today, you hear very challenging conversations. But I think I always remind myself, well, let me say this first, right? So supervision and that support from other colleagues plays an instrumental role in helping you find that balance. There's an element of mental toughness that you develop. Now, that doesn't mean that I've thrown away compassion,
right?
but you do have to be mentally.
Compartmentalize, I guess, too. Maybe.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't see how you couldn't. I mean,
Right. So I am very aware that I do not change people. Only God changes hearts. But if he can use me to be a light in someone's darkness or to give them hope in the midst of their chaos or help them with the battlefield of the mind organize their thoughts, that perspective shift for me and always reminding myself of that is what helps me stay focused and avoid a second burnout, I guess, if you will.
So what's the hardest part then? Like the hardest part of what you do?
Wanting to have a magic wand and like poof people's situations away. But I can't.
Yeah.
I can think of several cases that I wish I had a magic wand for. And I've told them, told them that. Yeah. If I had, I would use it on you type thing. But I think with anything though, if you really work hard, and you have the right atmosphere, a safe place to again, go through the process of it all. But if the client on the other end is willing to dig their heels in and work really hard and cope with some of the negative thoughts that they're telling each other, learn some communication skills, learn how to parent different. I see a lot of mothers and daughters as well. So if we can all stay focused, it means so much more when you work hard, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
100%. So what's the best part, most rewarding part?
Oh, I mean, watching God work. It's so fun. When I was baptized, which was a long time ago, the pastor, puts you under the water. I was fully submerged and put you under the water and then comes back out. And I remember, again, I was younger, but I remember him saying, it's your face is my favorite part of being able to baptize people. It's your face when you go in the water, and then it's the transformation in your face as you're coming out. And I guess I was young and I was like, oh, what does that even look like? But now I think I understand. I am not baptizing people by any stretch of the means. Okay, let me be clear. But when a person comes into my office, it's their eyes.
Yeah.
It's their eyes. It's like a peace that passeth understanding or a new joy or a contentment.
It's like the light comes back into the...
Yeah, I can see it. And that like fires me up. I love it. That's my favorite part.
That would be so great.
That's my favorite part.
How cool that you get to see that and be part of that.
It's fun.
That's pretty...
It's fun.
No, I'm fired up.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah. Not me, just you. You know what I mean? I'll high five you from the other side. I don't want to know. You know what I mean? You guys do your. I hope though that she has the magic wand thing.
That's
that
right.
Talking about.
If I figure that out,
find the light.
That's right. I'll come back on the podcast and like share.
Heck yeah. So I love that. So I guess I want to kind of finish up by talking about access because. There's not enough of you, like especially in rural places. So something we've learned, through the chamber and through like our relationships with our healthcare providers and the military and gosh, almost any sector. What comes up over and over again is between the way insurance pays for this or doesn't pay for this, or the fact that, you just don't have that many trained, licensed, credible providers that can be trusted, like why do you think the access is still poor to a resource like you?
I mean, I guess I think a lot of things. One being we're all so busy, and I'm really empathetic to people who finally feel like maybe this therapist in particular would be a good fit for them. And then there's like a 3 to 6 months month waiting list, right? And that's frustrating. When you're ready, you're ready.
Sure. Well, like if you, the reason I say that is because if you broke your arm, you're not going to wait 3 months.
Yeah. No.
So how do you distinguish between what is, it just still feels like that this is not as valuable, in the world, because it's like, well, if you were in a car accident, if you were wrecked physically, you would be rushed to care.
Right.
And there's a lot more options for care. I mean, there's a hospital, right? There's all these private practices. There's specialists for this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. But like for your head and your heart, it just seems like there's maybe not as many places to go.
Well, I do wish there was, more of us for sure. But, maybe I can give Wayne County kudos, if you will, because we do have crisis walk-in clinics.
Right, that's right.
And we do have, psychiatry here. We do have substance abuse options here, substance abuse counselors, people in outpatient. Some of my dear friends are therapists. But I also think the burden perhaps falls on us as clinicians a little bit, to kind of get people in and say, hey, maybe you are on a 3-month waiting list, but if we could try this. And I don't know, I think it's our responsibility to point people in the right direction. You got to start somewhere. And then if they figure out, hey, maybe I just want to see a male therapist, or maybe I want someone who's more faith-based, or, maybe I do need substance abuse. I'm happy if anyone comes to me and says, I'm really struggling with alcohol, then I know exactly where to point them in the right direction. And so there is, again, going back to like Wayne County, there is a good network of people in this town. And I think I have had more success being able to refer clients and kind of getting them in. I mean, I've got a few psychologists that I work with that if I need to get a adolescent tested, then it's, I can get them in within a couple weeks, so there's some good things coming, but I am real sensitive to the frustration of there needs to be more of us.
Yeah. I faced that when Finley, my middle boy, was younger, and we were trying to figure out, he was having some challenges, and we were trying to get him tested and trying to get things. Man, that was very difficult to achieve. And I live here, I live here, and you would think that I would be able to get access, if people who may know where access is, or know, I would probably know, I certainly would know more than random person on the street. And
Fair.
It was just not, it was not as, but I think you're right. I mean, I think there's a strong network. I just don't, I wish it was more and more known, and maybe through things like this, or through, I don't know, other strategies. I want to make sure that, whether you're a farmer, or whether you're a pilot, or whether you're a spouse of a, pilot, or, you're a family who's got a kid that's struggling, that they know, hey, here are the access points. Here's who you need to talk to. Here's where you go. And make it as obvious as the emergency room, because.
Well, I've heard people say often you go for your annual physical with your physician. Yeah. So why could we not, as a culture, push for an annual assessment with a mental health professional? And
Interesting.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I would let's go.
I think they should use you.
Let's push. Oh, well, I'll help any way I can.
No offense, but
thank you.
I'm a fan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
I hope that you're motivated for the rest of your life to do what you do, because you're great at it.
I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah. And I appreciate what you've done for me. And I know there are other families who I'm sure feel the same way, and people who feel the same way. But thank you. And thank you for being here and spending some time with us today.
Well, thank you, Scott. This was fun.
Yeah.
This is fun. It's a joy to be here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.